Welcome to the 359. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Joni Salson.
On March 25th, the world will change forever. Apple, the company that brought you the iPhone. Come on, I'm trying to
do it.
get
it. Movie trailer voice it.
Yeah, is expected to unveil its rumored video service at a press event at its Cupertino, California headquarters. It's very obvious that this is probably what's going to happen because their invitation said it's showtime on it. So they're not even hiding it.
No.
Joan, you're going to be at the event. Is this a big deal or a really big deal? Tell us all about it.
In a world where Netflix already has over 1 million subscribers, how big of a deal is it that Apple is doing? So it's a big deal in the sense that for Apple in the sense that iPhone sales, as we know, revenue is going down. And Apple has said that they want services like Apple Music and presumably this Netflix-like service. They want subscriptions and that like recurring money to be coming in, to be a bigger part of their business.
And that part of their business has been doing really well lately.
Yeah, it's been doing well. So this would be a big part of that push. But like outside of the Apple bubble, like they had reportedly $1 billion budget on content, which
isn't actually that much compared to some of the other. It is a lot.
It's a lot.
Compare that to Amazon and Netflix.
Well, Netflix's budget, it's hard to keep track, but I think it's I can't remember. I think it's like 13 billion, including marketing. I think it's 10 billion just for content and then another 3 billion just for marketing.
Wow.
I think, and I could be getting that wrong. Honestly, it's just so. Netflix is so, but the thing about Netflix is it like makes everybody in Hollywood make their jaws drop how much money they spend. So it's not exactly a good barometer to go up against. $1 billion is a lot compared to HBO, compared to Hulu, compared to Amazon, which does not spend as much. It's spending more, but does not spend as much as, nobody spends as much as Netflix. But what's interesting is that not only do we have Netflix, but Apple's releasing this service. Disney's going to be releasing a service like it later this year. There's going to be a service from Warner Media, which is owned by AT&T, which is the owner of HBO, next year. So it's happening at this time where there's been more competition for this kind of subscriber than ever over the next year.
Does that worry Netflix at all, or are they feeling pretty comfortable?
I think they're feeling fine considering that they have like 130 million subscribers globally. They're so far out ahead of the competition, wherein the competition is just starting. But I will say, Spotify, though, it still has more global subscribers than Apple Music. Apple Music, kind of to a degree that no one really expected, like really quickly got into second place. And in the US, it's even estimated that Apple Music has more subscribers than Spotify just here. So I wouldn't never count Apple out of a race when they're really, really dedicated.
You definitely can't do that. So it'll be really interesting to see more about that. And obviously price will also be an interesting element. We'll see how that goes. But also wanted to get to another story. There's a neck and neck subscriber contest between PewDiePie and T-Series. That's continuing with T-Series taking the subscriber crown briefly again. I kind of know or care about this. Maybe. Is this important? Like PewDiePie claims that this has something to do with like, this is capturing the soul of YouTube to a certain extent because he's like a single YouTuber, whereas T-Series is a whole production studio. Right. Is it that important?
It matters a lot to PewDiePie and to his fans because it means a lot to have the crown as like the most subscribed channel. It means a lot for PewDiePie. As far as I know, T-Series hasn't really talked about anything, but it does raise this issue of like, is it a fair comparison, T-Series being like a record label with constant content coming out, high production value stuff, and then PewDiePie's just a dude.
He's one person
in like his apartment in front of a microphone.
It's startling to me that he's managed to keep the crown as long as he has since late 2013, and his views I saw in our story today, 20 billion.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, he's been the king for a really, really long time, for like 4 years, 6 years, something like that.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Either way, if you want to read more about these stories, check them out on CNET. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Joni Salson.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks as always for joining us for the recording of the audio podcast. You can subscribe using the links in the description below. Are you subscribed to PewDiePie? Are you subscribed to T-Series? I am subscribed to neither, but I also must bow in appreciation for the meme lord himself. How he's able to continue to generate so much endearing content and garner such an audience is beyond me, because certainly I haven't figured it out. Joan and Ben, what do you guys think?
So, PewDiePie, it's really impressive the lengths that he's gone to achieve what he has. Like, yeah, they're at like it's a neck and neck race. I think like right now they're only separated by, it's going down. They're separated by 800 subscribers.
At this very moment.
At this second. And it's, yeah, TC. It's like, it's been this cat and mouse thing for a while, but it's really impressive when you think that, like, yeah, there is this neck and neck thing. But the next level of, like, beyond T-Series and PewDiePie in, like, that third place rank, it's only, like, they're at 89 million subscribers. And the next one is, like, in the 50s.
Wow.
Like, there's a huge gap between that neck and neck race and then the person that's behind them.
So PewDiePie wins regardless. You know, because
Yeah.
he's managed to get all those subscriber counts. And does it make any sense to suggest that like he's all of a sudden going to be overshadowed, or he's not going to be as relevant if
No.
T-Series does eventually overtake him, which it does appear that seems to be where it's trending.
Yeah, and now they're only separated by 600. Oh my god, it's so
Dun,
exciting.
dun, dun.
I mean, like, it speaks to the fact that YouTube is so gigantic. It gets 400 hours of content uploaded every minute. So within that universe,
Oh.
yeah, yes, you have rankings. It's easy to see rankings of things. But within that universe, it's just so big that, like, obviously T-Series is addressing a very different audience, be it Bollywood style music videos, you know, often in another language than English, versus PewDiePie's audience. Like, they're completely separate. It's not like they're competing for the same viewer. And that's what can happen in YouTube. When you're that big, you can have two gigantic channels like this that have the one success doesn't mean the other one's failure. It's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah, and as you said, YouTube, what this really represents is that YouTube is video online. Like, that's what it's become.
It is like Google is to search, YouTube is to video, and they're all owned by Google. So Google just basically runs the world, is what we're saying.
Sounds great. Yes, I do subscribe to PewDiePie, by the way, but admittedly, I haven't watched him much recently. So I will get back to watching your, I don't know, what is it, a Let's Play? I'm just going to really
barely does
lean
Let's
in.
Play anymore,
I'm
it
going to
seems
lean
like.
into my total dad life and pretend I don't know nothing.
All right, let's go ahead and take some questions. Right out the gate, Dougie Mac. Ben, what does CNET mean?
Computer
We know.
Network.
Computer
Network. I know
Reminder,
that one.
that was named back in, what, 1994?
We're 25 years old now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you for that softball, by the way. I really appreciate it. I'm getting my footing now.
All right, our buddy Datch is asking, is anybody really going to be ready to pay for a whole nother entertainment service with Apple TV?
Great question.
That is a great question.
Yes.
So one of the things we don't know about the service that Apple is going to launch is how much it's going to cost. We can make some educated guesses, though. There have been some that speculate that what Apple will do is allow the service to be free for people who are Apple device owners. So if you have an iPhone, if you have an Apple TV, you would get this as kind of a perk of buying those devices. There's a lot of reason to be skeptical that Apple would basically kind of like throw away $1 billion of content
as like a
programming.
retention mechanism.
As a retention mechanism, or to lure people in. But the question is, like, are you really going to buy a $1,000 iPhone so you can get like what is probably going to be $120 worth annual subscription to something?
I could see carriers bundling for Apple, but I think you're right. They've definitely pushed so much money into it, and they have this huge incentive to build up their services business.
Right.
That, yeah, we're going to charge you something.
Yeah.
But the question is as we were talking about music services previously, it seems that music services have all figured out the sweet spot of, what is it, like $10?
Well, that's dictated by the labels pretty much. The labels say, like, there's not a lot of room for price competition because the labels say you can charge $10 a month. We don't want anyone discounting from that. People find ways to bundle other stuff so that they can continue to. But really, the
so
labels.
that's where the standardization comes from.
But it is
from that.
standardized. It is like pretty much you're gonna get all you can eat on-demand music for $10 a month. You can find what are called limited tier things like Amazon Prime Music, where you don't get the full breadth of capabilities for lower prices. But we have seen that there's like a pretty narrow band of where these subscription streaming services run. If you have no advertising. You're probably going to be paying around $10 to $15 a month for something. We don't know what Apple is going to charge, because I presume that they're going to charge something. If not for everyone, then for people that don't have Apple devices, they're probably going to allow people that are Android users, not part of the Apple ecosystem, to be able to watch these shows, because otherwise talent is going to be kind of annoyed that if there's an audience wanting to see them, they're not allowed to see it just because they don't buy the device. I would imagine it's going to be priced somewhere between like $8 and like $12. I would be really surprised if it's more than 12, because that's Netflix charges about $11, $12 now.
And HBO is 15.
HBO is 15, and Disney's service that's going to be coming up. Iger hasn't, Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, he hasn't said how much it's going to cost, but he has said that it will be less than Netflix, because they know they're not going to have the same breadth of catalog that Netflix has.
He said that repeatedly.
Yeah.
He's like, we're gonna, kind of set expectations at this point. So
it would be surprising if Apple, which is going to have even less of a catalog than Disney, if they have something, but Apple, if they have something priced at Netflix or above, but Apple loves premium price tags, and
they got some serious talent. You mentioned that in your story. They got Reese Witherspoon. Tell me some other ones.
Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Aniston, J.J. Abrams, Jennifer Garner, Oprah Winfrey, M. Night Shyamalan. Steven Spielberg is making an anthology series. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Steve Carell, too. He's in there somewhere.
Yeah, he's making, I think it's a drama, actually. It might be, I don't exactly. We have a whole separate story on CNET that lists all the different series. We don't know as much about what their films are going to be, but
there's a lot of money getting thrown around thanks to these streaming services.
It's hard to book studio space because everyone's making video.
And folks that are actors, they are definitely getting above their market rate for some of this stuff.
Yeah, writers and actors, it's been a boon for talent, for sure.
God, yeah, we should get into that. Can we get paid for this? I don't know.
I mean, BuzzFeed has a Netflix series.
Okay. If I figure out what CNET means, we'll pitch that too. So, yeah.
I don't know. I think this whole TV thing's just a fad. I'm glad you guys talked about that, because Kirthi was asking if the service is going to be free for Apple users.
Maybe.
I think I might be on board with like the first taste is free kind of scenario. That sounds very Apple-y of them. Oscar brought up a comment. He said Google will eventually buy Netflix. Now, here's a thought. Now that Apple themselves, as the tech company, are getting into the original content game, will that make places like Hulu, Netflix, etc., now that we have Apple and Amazon as essentially TV networks, will that make things like Netflix a commodity? Will somebody like Google try to scoop that up to get back in the game?
So people talk about Netflix as an acquisition target, like routinely. It comes up every few months.
It's for years.
Yeah, for a really long time. And often the suspected way that it would go previously, people have always like asked, what if Apple bought Netflix? It's possible Google might want to buy Netflix, but I don't know. It's not.
They have YouTube.
They have YouTube
that is
already.
Something.
And
that's true. I still don't really think of YouTube as a premium service, though. I know they tried to get in the game with YouTube Red,
right?
And not to knock any of the content on there, but it definitely didn't pick up an audience like a Netflix or a Hulu did.
No, and they've actually canceled YouTube Red. Like,
right.
They're moving all that stuff outside of the paywall over the course of this year.
So here are two things to consider as far as Netflix is an acquisition target. First of all, its market cap as it stands today is above $150 billion, which is a lot of money for anybody except the major tech players.
Yeah.
The other element to consider in that regard is there is so much more antitrust concern these days for tech behemoths. So the idea that Apple or any other major consumer tech company would be able to scoop up Netflix, there would be way more pushback these days than the time not that long ago, 5-6 years ago, when Facebook scooped up WhatsApp or Facebook scooped up Instagram. I think those days are really limited. Or when Google scooped up YouTube. Yeah. So I don't see Netflix as an acquisition target anymore. I just don't see it in this current regulatory environment. But granted, anything could happen, and it's also possible that maybe somebody else that's not a major tech player would be interested in Netflix, even though, like, at that price point, you're talking about a very limited set of companies.
We're talking, so, like, to put in perspective, Netflix's market cap, which is the like total value of all its publicly traded stock, is $150 billion dollars, as Ben said. This month, Disney, the biggest media company, pure media company in the country, is set to close its takeover of Fox, which is one of the other most biggest. And that deal for Fox was like half the amount of Netflix's market cap now, I think. I think it was like 80 something
Yeah,
billion.
it was close to 80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anyone were to acquire Netflix, it would be a gargantuan, like AT&T bought Time Warner, that also was $85 billion deal. Like this would be to like a 2x degree,
Yeah.
the biggest media deal in a really, 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 really long time, maybe ever. I would
Right,
have to,
which
like,
is
look
why
at
it's
stats.
interesting that Netflix has been kind of an acquisition darling for so long. It's also, if you look at their stock price, it's skyrocketed.
It's ridiculous.
So, yeah, they were an acquisition target back in 2011 when the stock was worth $33. And yeah, this is really critical when you think about like acquiring Netflix, because the money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So in all likelihood, Netflix is probably going to continue as a standalone company. And as we were talking about during the podcast, they're probably going to keep the crown of the biggest streaming service
Yeah.
for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Yeah. For a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
Probably.
Here's an interesting thought from Best Times Videos, Tech, and More. They say that they should all join the streaming services together in one big service. That would never happen, but it would be cool. Bro, that was called Time Warner, and we hate it.
Are you talking? So like
Full
people,
circle.
I
Time
don't
Warner
think
Cable.
I don't
Yeah.
think anyone actually. So Time Warner is different than Time Warner Cable. I'm not sure which one you're talking about because nobody.
I'm abbreviating on behalf of the crappy TV service.
Because
Yes,
most
so
people like
Warner
Time
Cable.
Warner as like a programmer. Because Time Warner is like the company that owns CNN, Comedy Central, HBO, TBS.
Yeah, and they also screwed up Justice League, so...
Is that Warner Brothers?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, no, it would be
Everything's
There's
the
some very
idea of, like,
specific qualms with Time Warner.
it would be like bringing back the cable bundle, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably know about this, is if you do start bundling, or you do end up picking up all of these different services, how much closer do you get to a cable bundle, which is like, $100 a month or something like that.
Yeah. 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 It's people, you can argue that you don't save very much money if you cut the cord, you don't save all that much money once you have to pay for internet and 3 to 5 subscription services. It kind of gets up there. It just depends on what's available in your area. But besides like competitive concerns that would prevent like one bundle that combines all like these competitors are making themselves distinct from each other for a reason, so that you have to choose.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, as much fun as it is to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, we got a few minutes left. Damian Wilson is asking if we're going to see anything about a new Mac Mini or 2019 iMac. That's not this keynote.
No.
This one is more like industry service, maybe some
Digital
accessory
media.
rollouts. Yeah.
Here's
There
the
was
thing.
rumor
I
about
did-
maybe AirPods, though, right?
No.
No?
probably
I
not.
thought I saw that somewhere.
I mean, there's rumors, but I think generally the expectation at this point is that there's not going to be hardware at this event. But
That'll be September or October. What is it?
or even before then, there might
Oh.
be. Sometimes there's an
there's a
iPad
summer
event in the
sometimes, right.
spring. There's also WWDC where they don't traditionally unveil hardware, right? At WWDC.
Not often, but they do
There's
sometimes.
and that's in May. So yeah, there's a possibility for, and then people, have been kind of wanting to see some sort of update to the AirPods for a while, and so that's something people are hoping to anticipate. But I think the understanding is that this event is probably not going to have hardware.
There is one element that we didn't get to that is expected to be at this event,
Yeah.
and that's the news service.
Right. Yeah. So it's expected for Apple not only to unveil the television Netflix-like service, but also to they acquired Texture, which is basically a magazine subscription aggregator, and so they're expected to unveil how they're going to kind of translate Texture into Apple News, so that you can have a subscription to a bunch of different news and magazine style publications in one place.
Right. They've been drumming that up for a minute.
Yeah. So that's probably also going to be at the March 25th event.
more subscription services, even though that one's going to be much smaller
Yeah.
in scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But we'll see. Texture wasn't doing great in terms of growth and making an impact. There's a lot of complications with that one too. But yeah, so you can expect to probably see something like that there.
Shout out to Roger Cheng for lurking in the chat, even though somebody said he was too busy to be on the show today.
Yeah, dude.
Here's a really good question from R. Wallop. Will there be syndicated TV shows and older movies on Apple's new service, or is it only their original content?
That's a great question, and something that we don't really know. The presumption is that they wouldn't, because that's really commoditized stuff, and it's also something that the license holders for that, if it's good content that people actually want, people have gotten, license holders have gotten more savvy to the fact that there's value to holding that for yourself. And so many of these license holders are starting their own subscription services where they can have the direct relationship with you, the viewer, rather than just licensing it to Netflix. It's possible Netflix would license a bunch of old catalog content, but it's not the kind of thing that would really, I can't imagine that would be something that they're going to do licensing as a way to draw you in. I feel like they're only really putting the big dollars behind original exclusive stuff that they green light and make only for themselves, rather than like doing a deal to get Friends away from Netflix by paying Time Warner a bunch of money for that. But they might license a bunch of cheap stuff, so that their library isn't like so sparse that you're like, what am I actually getting by signing up for this thing?
Yeah. They
We'll
like
see.
a big number. You know, that does make sense to just kind of like bolster the number to say, hey, we've got 100,000
Right.
movies from
Yeah.
the 70s.
We've seen Apple starting to play nicer with their services on non-Apple devices. Storm King is asking, will they make iTunes available to everyone? I would like to expand that into, are we going to start seeing iTunes sync capabilities on other devices, like even an Amazon Dot or, hell, a Google Home?
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, but like, isn't that assuming that you would need your like your digital library, which like people don't really rely on as much. I mean, like once I started subscribing to Spotify, there's so much less that I listen to my digital library.
Yeah.
Because like, how much Boyz II Men can you really listen to? A lot.
A lot. And you can do it on Spotify.
Right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, iTunes has become less relevant as an application as trends in listening have changed. So I think there's less of an impetus now than maybe like 5 years ago or 10 years or 7 years, certainly 10 years ago, for there to be like, give me my iTunes on Apple devices. But it's possible. I mean, as he said, as he noted, Apple's doing that, is making services of theirs more readily available, which is to say at all available on other people's devices. So.
Wait, is Give Me My iTunes a new I Want My MTV?
Yes.
Kind of. Yeah, which means it's already old.
It would be nice, obviously, to have it on an Echo device. And,
Yeah.
you know, I would probably get around to connecting those two things, syncing them. But it makes it less valuable when you're a Prime customer and you've already got a free Amazon Music tier. I'm already a Spotify customer. So do I really need it? It's a nice to have, but I do get it that people probably aren't clamoring for it as much.
Yeah.
All right, we are just about out of time, but as always, Srinjoy to the rescue with a really good one to go out on. How many decades do you think Apple will hold its #1 position of global brands? And if a non-tech brand is to regain that position again after Coca-Cola, make your bets on which brand it would be.
Ooh, good question.
I don't know. People like Disney a lot.
That's
People
a
like
very
Disney.
good point.
People like Disney a
The
lot.
ones currently that are really dominating the global brand. If I know what you're talking about, Srinjoy, it's like this. It was something that was trending on Twitter a couple days ago that Apple and some of the other major tech companies just shot up as like highest reputation, most recognizable global brands. The problem with a lot of tech companies is that their castles are built on sand, so they tend to go up really, really quickly, and they also tend to go down really, really quickly.
Yeah.
We obviously don't see that right now because this is a golden age for all of these major tech behemoths, but it's entirely possible some of those quieter brands, some of those consumer brands that we don't really think about as much anymore may eventually retake those crowns because they're just more stable businesses in the long run. But when and if that would happen, that's really hard to say.
Well, great conversation as always, everybody. That's going to wrap it up for us. We thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe to PewDiePie. Ben?
Subscribe to PewDiePie.
Wait, what are they at right now? Hold on. Ah, wait, hold on. They are
I got all the time in the world.
Separated by 910 subscribers. That's insane.
So definitely subscribe to PewDiePie. PewDiePie. Anyway, the 359 is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, FeedBurner, Google Play Music, Google Podcast, the Amazon Echo, and of course, CNET.com. Thanks everybody for watching. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.